Any health-related information on the following show provides general information only. Content presented on any show by any host or guest should not be substituted for a doctor's advice. Always consult your physician before beginning any new diet, exercise, or treatment program.
For centuries, ancient cultures knew the secrets to longevity, vitality, and healing. Now, modern science is catching up. Ageless Blueprint is a podcast that will reveal the modern secrets of better health and a better life. Join Dr. Eldred Taylor here today and every Wednesday at 9 a.m. Eastern Time on W4HC Radio at W4HC.com. As together we discover the secrets to better health through science and spirituality. A better life with Ageless Blueprint starts now. Here's your host, Dr. Eldred Taylor.
Hello, hello, hello. I am Dr. Taylor, your host of Ageless Blueprint, where we unlock the secrets to longevity and vitality, and we try and change the script from aging to ageless. So we want to be ageless. We don't want age to determine how our life is or how our life is going to be. So that's the crux of this podcast. I'm Dr. Taylor. I am a former OBGYN, and that training led me into interest in bioidentical hormones, and that led me into interest of holistic medicine. And then that led me into me and my wife writing 2 books called Are Your Hormones Making You Sick? And the other book, The Stress Connection. And from that, I became a speaker and spoke all around the country and really the world, talking about the consequences of stress and the consequences of hormones out of balance. And from that, I became what I want to be called as a healer. And healing is comprehensive. And that's what we're going to talk about in this podcast, is how to heal our body, mind, and our spirit. And that is what this podcast is all about. So I wanted to give you a little explanation in case you were new to our podcast. This is our 4th episode. I'm excited because we made it this far. I'm more comfortable with this form of communication because deep down, I'm a communicator. Communicators try to make difficult subjects simple, where educators make simple subjects complicated. So I always want to communicate in the simplest way possible. And I'm so happy that we have this medium that allows me to do that. So today, finally, we're going to talk about what I call functional medicine. I kind of transitioned from conventional medicine to functional medicine. Functional medicine and holistic medicine, integrative medicine are all kind of the same. And now, and then a little while later, we're going to even talk about energy medicine. That's what I'm really kind of converting myself into, is to understanding energy and quantum physics. But for now, like always, we got to start at the beginning. So everybody knows what conventional medicine is. And I think most people who are listening to this or looking at this, they know that our medical system is not quite what it's all cracked up to be. I will tell you from my perspective as a physician, when I was practicing conventional medicine, I was frustrated. I didn't have enough time to talk to the patients. I felt like I was just doing things over and over again without much thought to it. It's just, you gave birth control pills, you did pap smears, you did hysterectomies, you delivered babies. To me, I was frustrated and I was kind of bored. And I could tell my patients were frustrated because I wasn't really helping them. And the patient that I knew I wasn't helping is my wife when she started having these issues, and the things that I learned in medical school just did not work. And so I changed into functional medicine, understanding how the body functions. And what I'm going to talk about today is that this is not new. Some people think, oh, this new wave doctor, he's doing all of this new kind of crazy stuff. Well, it's not new. I'll tell you what is new is allopathic medicine. Allopathic medicine came about in 1930 with this thing called the Flexner Report, which we're going to talk about today. Before then, there was all types of medicine being practiced. There was herbal medicine, there was nutritional medicine, there was energy medicine, there was healing touch medicine, there was homeopathy. There were all these different types of medical treatments that were originated in all these different cultures. So different cultures had different forms of healing. That's how the species propagated or reproduced. They had to live long enough in order to reproduce. And nature provides what you need. Now, most medications that you're taking now, they're derived from some medicinal plant that the pharmaceutical industry was able to manipulate so that they could patent it. And we'll get into all of that. But let's start from the beginning. Always, when I'm investigating anything, I like to start from the beginning. When I want to understand spirituality, I went to Egypt. When I wanted to understand physiology, I went to the physiology book. We go right to the beginning. So let's go to the beginning of allopathic medicine, which started with the Flexner Report. And Rebel, can you pull up those slides for me? All right, so the Flexner Report, I'm gonna bring this a little closer so I can read my slides, you know? So in 1910, the report was standardized for medicine, but eliminated traditional approaches. It was funded by Rockefeller. Okay, Rockefeller had made so much money from the oil business, but back in the 1930s, there were not a whole lot of cars. So he had to find something else that could use his oil products. So before the Flexner Report in 1910, yes, there was diverse medical traditions. Again, there was homeopathy, all of those medical traditions that I named, they were flourishing and they were working well. It wasn't that people were dying on the street. It wasn't that, these herbs were killing people or laying on of hands or faith healing or trances that some of the shamans would put people in to heal them. Nobody was getting hurt by these. Nobody was dying. So we didn't need to reform medicine because we wanted to improve health. The people who reformed medicine, they wanted to improve profit, not health. Okay. So what they did was they imposed standardized laboratory-based curriculum, this double-blind placebo-controlled study. And if it can't pass a double-blind placebo-controlled study, then it's considered to be unscientific. So what happened is that that Rockefeller, he started the Carnegie Institute, and the Carnegie Institute started investigating how chemicals and drugs, they partnered with DuPont in order to make drugs in order to corner the medicine market. Okay, that was their goal. How do we control medicine? Because they saw it was huge profits in this. Okay, so what they did was they wanted, yes.
Two questions.
Mm-hmm.
Is this when you've noticed a shift from actually healing medicine to let's keep people sick to make money off of medicine? And
Exactly. You can't sell drugs if people aren't sick. And here's the deal. If you make a drug, they will try to create a sickness that causes you to use the drug. And in another podcast, I'm going to talk about how all these made up syndromes and symptoms are really tied to just selling drugs. They just put together a lot of things and say, hey, look, this will take away all these symptoms. Let's call it a syndrome. Let's put it on a commercial and say, hey, here's an illness that you might have, and we have the cure. And that's what it's all about. Okay. I always said that healthcare has nothing to do with health. It has to do with money. And this whole system of medicine that we have is based on profit. We live in a capitalistic society, and this is capitalism. You just have to be aware of it. It's all about, when we talk about mindset, it's all about being aware. Okay. What is going on? What are these commercials trying to get me to do? What is What are the pharmaceutical companies trying to get me to do? Okay. And if you are aware of what's happening, you can make a conscious decision either to go that route or to not go that route. I made the decision when I read a book called Racketeering in Medicine that talked about the Flexner Report. And that's what got me questioning what I had learned in medical school. Because you need to understand, medical schools are funded by the pharmaceutical industry. Okay. That's who gives them grants to study things. Okay. So what is the pharmaceutical company going to give you a grant to study? It's going to give you a grant to study their medicine, their drug. And if you want grant money to keep coming, you, if at all possible, you want to have a positive outcome when you test that drug. So there's an incentive for the FDA and for the pharmaceutical industry and for the educational business, our medical schools, to look positively on drugs because that's where their profit comes from, and to look negatively on the competition, which is functional medicine. And that's what functional medicine and compounding pharmacists and all of these non-allopathic traditions, they got demonized because you have to get rid of the competition if you're going to maximize your profits. Okay? Now, Rebel, if you're a business person, that makes perfect sense. Is that correct?
It seems like they're crooked business people, but yes, I mean, the business platform, that is the platform to make business work. Yes.
Yeah, you create a big market, so they make sure that everybody thinks that they need cholesterol medicine or everybody needs, antibiotics. So you try and expand your market. Even with the opioid crisis, if you saw any of the documentaries on Netflix, expand your market. Okay. And what's the most gullible market? Is kids. It's not a coincidence that the opiate crisis happened. Okay. They targeted kids. Kids are the most impressionable. They're the least conscious. They're easily manipulated. And so that's how they sell more opiates. Okay.
So create a need. I mean, create a want. No, how is it? Create a need, supply.
And fill it.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
so that's the original pyramid scheme, right?
Hey, you said that, I didn't. Okay. You said that. All right. So let's go to the next slide so we'll be able to get through this. All right. So financial influences behind medical reform. That's really pretty much what I was talking about. The Rockefeller Foundation, they were major oil industrial backing. Okay. He had made all this money on oil. He's like, where else can I make some money? So the Steel Fortune, okay, the Carnegie Foundation, the Rockefeller was oil, and then Carnegie was steel. Their fortune funding medical reform. So that's when the pharmaceutical industry got started. All right, the emerging sector with profit potential. That's what they were concerned about, is profit. All right, so let's go to the next one.
So this is one crook learning from another then, right?
Hey, it's a capitalistic system. They're capitalizing on their profit. So that's what I'm saying. Just understand where you are and understand that money drives everything. And I always say, when something doesn't make sense, always follow the money. That will tell you what's going on. Just follow the money. All right. So here's what happened. They closed a lot of the medical schools, the DO schools, the naturopathic schools, anything that was teaching anything other than pharmaceutical-based medicine. They closed them. They demonized them. They had policies that made them illegal. They were unscientific. They were quacks. All 50% of the medical schools closed. Okay.
So that's putting fear in people to make them steer to their product. Oh, wow.
Yeah. To say that, hey, all this other stuff is unscientific. It's not really doing what you think it's doing. They're fooling you. They're giving you snake oil. Let me give you this scientific-based drug that we know, that we think will work. Okay. So they think it would work. So 50% of the medical schools closed All the black medical schools closed except two. I'm from Nashville. One of those black medical schools is Meharry. The other one's in Washington, D.C., and that's Howard. Now, Morehouse Medical School is here in Atlanta. I told you Meharry's in Nashville. That's where I'm from. Now I live in Atlanta. Morehouse Medical School is a predominantly black medical school, even though they have all types of all ethnicities that go to these schools now. And then there's Charles Drew Medical School that's out in LA. So even though only two survive, now there's two more. All right.
Now,
But
there's a question with that. Now,
big part.
there's a question there.
Mhm.
Some folks knew more than others. Let's face
Right.
facts.
Mhm.
The how do you say this? The folks who knew more were actually the black folks, because they grew up with ancestry that taught them the
Yeah.
things they needed to know. And
Yeah.
that's probably why they started closing, because they knew more than
Yeah.
the Rockefellers and the other people. And they
Oh,
were
yeah.
scared, so they had to push them out the way.
Yeah. So, the African traditions of healing and medicine, a lot of that, I went to ancient Egypt. Yeah, they had all types of different herbs. They could actually feel the energy from different plants, and they could tell if those plants were healthy or positive for them or negative. You got to think when you're in this, vast wilderness or whatever, and you're trying to find healing plants. How did they figure that out? Did somebody eat something and then they died and they said, okay, that's bad. They said they could feel the energy, and we're going to talk about energy medicine, how everything's connected. But they could feel the energy of a plant, and they knew if it was healing or if it wasn't healing. And so, yeah, and I'm going to tell you, here's the reason why they took Africans and made slaves out of them, because they tried to make slaves out of other ethnicities. But the Africans were able to withstand the brutality that they placed on the slaves. So they were so resilient, okay, that they could survive even through the brutality of slavery, and where other ethnicities didn't. So, how did they learn this? Okay, they learned it from their ancestors in Africa. Okay, so yeah, I hadn't thought about that, Rebel, but that's probably it. They don't want them to be teaching things that could work better than their allopathic
They
medicine.
take away the biggest threat and make
Yeah.
them different. The same thing what they did with natural medicine in general. They took
Yeah.
away the biggest threat, and their biggest threat was the people who knew more,
Yeah,
had more ties to family and more tradition, because it seems that they were stronger,
yeah,
smarter, and more family oriented, because they passed along things where other cultures are lazy,
yeah.
want everybody to do everything for them, and we don't learn.
Well, the Native Americans, they had their own system of healing. They had all these rituals and chants and all these, and they summoned the spirits of their ancestors to teach them things. And this is, now this is all considered woo-woo medicine, or new age medicine, but no, this is back to the future type medicine. Okay. And we're going to go and see, well, did we benefit from changing medicine? Did our health improve? We're going to see. So all of the alternative schools, 100 plus alternative schools, the herbal and natural naturopathic traditions were eliminated. Okay, so get rid of the competition. That was the goal. All right, let's go to the next one. So what happened? Laboratory medicine was prioritized over holistic approaches. They're like, hey, if we can't prove it in the lab, it doesn't work by definition. I don't care if 10,000 years of people have used this system of medicine and they have survived. I don't care. If we can't prove it, we're going to call it nonsensical and unscientific. Who benefited from this? Primarily male physicians, okay? Because most of the studies are based on males. They're not based on the general population. A lot of the studies that you see are based on actually white males. So white females are different, black females are different, Asian females, everyone is different. They have a different genetic makeup. I won't say a genetic makeup, they have a different epigenetic makeup based on their history, on their culture. And so they are not going to respond to things that are outside of their cultural makeup. Okay. A lot of the immigrants come here and they start to eat our food and they start to get our diseases, where in their cultures, they don't get those diseases because their culture is totally different. The way they eat, the way they act, the way they think is totally different. So natural medicine systematically was discredited as unscientific. I have to be very careful who I talk to about what I do. And I will tell you, my brother, who is a conventional doctor, I don't talk to him about this, okay? Because if you talk to someone who is buried in conventional medicine, they're not going to understand what you're doing. They're not understanding why you're coloring outside the lines, why you're not following the protocol that most doctors are following. And we're going to talk about taking that road less traveled. Okay, let's go to the next slide. All right. So this shows the change in the causes of death from infection to chronic disease. So back in the 1900s, people were dying from tuberculosis and polio. It was infectious disease. Then with the invention of the antibiotics and penicillin, that began to change. Okay, so around the 1950s, that's when vaccines and antibiotics were more prevalent. And then you begin to see the shift toward chronic disease. And because when you're locked into allopathic medicine, you're not looking at the root cause. You're looking at a drug that will take away the symptom for 24 hours. So you'll need the drug the next day. All right. So now, because you never fix the root cause, now you develop these chronic illnesses. Okay. Because the initial problem was never solved, then you get one illness. And then when you are out of balance in one area, you're going to become out of balance in another area. So if your eating is out of balance, then your gut and your digestive system is going to get out of balance. If your digestive system gets out of balance, your energy production is going to get out of balance. If your energy production goes out of balance, then your activity is going to go down. If your activity goes down, now you're sedentary. Now your sedentary lifestyle is causing more problems. Okay, so if you don't fix the root cause, you are going to end up with chronic illnesses. And chronic illnesses are what drives the medical system right now. All right. So I think we're late for a commercial, aren't we?
Not necessarily late, but we can go to one.
Okay, well, let's do one. I'm going to get, I want to get through this, and I'm going to show you what we need to do to change this system. So let's go one more slide, I think. So why did this change to chronic illnesses begin? Well, this sedentary lifestyle, really what I was talking about, poor diets. In the 1950s, they were telling us that tobacco didn't cause cancer. So we started having all these cancer deaths. Aging population. So medicine has increased lifespan, but not as much as in other countries, and increase in diagnostic technology. So now we can diagnose diseases, or we can make up diseases or whatever, so that we have more chronic illnesses. What else has happened? Our environment has changed. We know about climate change, but I'm talking about all of the chemicals that are in our air, the chemicals that are in the water, the chemicals that are in our food, because they give all of these chemicals to the animals, and the chemicals that are on the crops that the animals eat. All of these chemicals are changing our environment. And these are new chemicals that the body has never seen before. So the body really doesn't know how to metabolize it, how to get it out of the system. That's why detoxification is so important, because I don't care, unless you live in a bubble, you are exposed to all types of environmental toxins every single second of the day. All right. So this has caused a problem. And the healthcare focused medicine is focused on acute care, drugs and surgery. And again, conventional medicine, if you have a heart attack, if you are in a car wreck, that is what they're best in, acute care. I'm about to die today. All right. I want to go to a conventional doctor to stop me from dying today. Now, when you stop me from dying today, I don't want you to do anything else to me, because in order for me not to die tomorrow, I need to change some things. I need to change my lifestyle. I need to change my environment. I need to change my focus, not toward a pill fixing me after I've screwed myself up, but no, I want to maintain my health so that I never develop one of these chronic diseases. I want to always know what the root cause of any problem is, so that I don't let it linger and fester and cause a chronic disease 2, 3, 5, 10, 15 years later. All right. So that's the change. So next slide. I think this is where I want to make a little transition. Yeah. All right. So let's go here. So let's say, hey, if allopathic medicine, if they got rid of all of the medical schools and the naturopathic schools, wow, this must really have advanced our lifespan and advanced our advanced our way of life. But that's not what happened. So let's go to commercial, and we're going to talk about what the outcome of this change has been.
We are going to a quick break, so stay with us as we explore the ageless blueprint right here on W4HC Radio and Talk4 TV. An ancient secret with a modern twist for better health and vitality. Dr. Taylor will be right back. Taking care of your health shouldn't mean taking a handful of pills every day. At Taylor MD Formulations, they create doctor-developed supplements that combine the best natural ingredients so you get the results you need with fewer pills. Taylor MD Formulations is backed by science, designed for real life with real results. Less pills, better health, doctor approved. Shop now at TaylorMDFormulations.com and discover smarter supplements for smarter health. That's TaylorMDFormulations.com. We are back for more of Ageless Blueprint. Once again, let's join Dr. Taylor for more insights and research on the ancient secret to better health and a better life in modern times. Here's your host, Dr. Eldred Taylor.
Okay, all right, we're back. Welcome back again to Ageless Blueprint. And this is where we talk about the secrets to longevity and vitality. And we try to convert you from aging to ageless. All right, so we're talking about ageless.
Come in during the we had a commercial thing. We had a question come in during the commercial.
Okay, all right.
The question is, so when you're born, they start shooting you up with medicine, and it seems that they keep you alive as much as they can, and then when you get older, they start pushing you out so they don't have to pay Social Security. Is that the gist of it?
Yeah. That is pretty much it. That's why they try to, convince you, because I'm going to be 65 this year. They just keep trying to convince you to wait till 70 until you get your Social Security, because you'll get more money. Yeah, you're right. They're hoping they won't have to pay you at all. They're hoping that you're going to be dead. Now, again, I'm not trying to be a conspiracy theorist, but I'm just giving you information, and you
see when you can see the truth. Okay.
Yeah,
it's right there in front of us.
That's what I'm saying. I'm just presenting information, and you draw your own conclusion. Okay. I trust people that they're smart enough to make decisions for themselves. I don't try and impose my decisions upon you, but I do want you to know the truth. And the truth, how this type of medicine got started, it's not an ageless secret. It's not. It's a 1910 invention. Okay, so there's nothing traditional about this. There's no history behind this. And I'm going to show you that it's not improving our health. So life expectancy in the United States is 77 years. In other nations, it's 81 to 85. And Japan is the global leader, is 85 is the life expectancy. And Japan and China have probably held on to their traditions more than other countries. Okay, And Western influence is starting to infiltrate there, and their life expectancy is going down, and their increase in chronic illness is going up. Everybody wants to have this Western lifestyle, but it's not beneficial for life. Okay, so let's go to the next one. All right, infant mortality rate. This is embarrassing, is that our mortality rate is double, almost triple. It's double the average almost, and it's triple what's in Japan. So, you know, uh, whether you're pro-life or pro-choice or whatever, if you're going to be pro-life, let's really be pro-life. Okay, that means that, yeah. And again, I don't care which one you are, but if you're pro-life, let's talk about life even after birth. How do we decrease infant mortality? And that's by changing the environmental structure. This is mostly happening in poor, underprivileged type societies or clusters in our country, and they're suffering this infant mortality. So let's really be pro-life if you're going to be pro-life. All right. So let's go to the next one. All right. So preventable deaths. This is interesting. So out of 100,000 deaths in the U.S., 177 of them are preventable. In other high-income countries, it's 108. But in the best performers, there are only 95 preventable deaths out of 100,000. So again, we're almost double the best performers when it comes to preventable deaths. And most chronic illnesses that cause death are preventable. Heart disease, cancer, addictions, all of these are preventable. So has the Flexner report and has allopathic medicine made our society healthier? I'm going to argue that it hasn't. All right, so let's go to the next one. And we spend more on healthcare than any other nation in the world, and we don't have the best healthcare. We spend almost 18% of our gross domestic product on healthcare, where the most efficient systems only spend 8 to 10%. All right, so now again, we're double the best, most efficient systems of medicine. So why do we keep clinging on to this type of medicine when it has no benefit? Okay, it only benefits a certain section of society, which is the people that are controlling the pharmaceutical industry and controlling medicine and controlling healthcare. That money, that's 17, almost 18% of the GDP, is going into the hands of those industries. All right. So we're spending a lot of money, and our return on investment, which is our health, is not improving. Let's go to the next one.
We have another question.
Okay.
People are saying that they're making the natural stuff pretty much illegal these days, that you have to conform to.
Yeah.
That's terrible.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's why people like me almost have to go undercover. Let me just give you an example. During the COVID crisis, before there was any vaccines, we put on our website that, hey, your best defense against any virus is to have a healthy immune system. How do you have a healthy immune system? You can take vitamin C, you can take probiotics, and you should make sure your vitamin D level is okay. That's all we said. We didn't say it cures COVID. We just said, try to build up your immune system. We got a letter from the FTC. Now, this was just on our website. I wasn't on TV making a commercial or whatever. And we got a letter from the Federal Trade Commission and telling us to take that information down because the vaccines were about to come out. So they were threatening me. The FTC was threatening me just by saying, why don't you build up your immune system? And this is how you do it. So that's the level of control that the government is just being pressured by lobbyists from these institutions that are making money. All right. So Yeah, you're right. It's almost illegal. Some of the things that I do in the office, I don't say anything about it. I don't publicize it because I know, I know the climate that I'm in. All right. So anyway, let's move on. All right. Allopathic medicine now, it's popular thinking, but the problem with popular thinking is that it doesn't require you to think at all. It's easy to do what other people do and hope that they thought it out. And that's what we do. I mean, we're looking at reality TV and looking at all these other people and how they live, and we think that that's how we're supposed to behave.
There
Okay.
is no reality in reality TV. People,
Yeah,
please.
it's not. And it's all about trying to get you to do something, to buy something. This is a materialistic consumerism world. So everything you see or hear is trying to get you to do something. And hey, I'm on this podcast trying to get you to do something. I'm trying to get you to think differently. Okay. Everybody's trying to persuade you. All right. So just know that. Yes, if you're looking at this, I'm trying to persuade you. I'm trying to persuade you to think for yourself. All right. And Einstein said this: we cannot solve our problems with the same thinking we use to create them. So I hope I've shown you that we have created a problem in our healthcare system. Allopathic medicine, thinking that we can heal people or cure people by giving them a drug that your body has no idea what it is. It's never seen it before. You know why these drugs have these big long names that that you can't pronounce? It's because in order to be a drug, it has to be something that's not found in nature, because you can't patent something that was created by nature. You can't say you invented something that was here uh, when we got here. Okay, so they have to take whatever. If it's something, if they find a chemical in a plant that actually has an effect on the body, they have to manipulate it and change it so that they can patent it. So that's why the drug never works as well as whatever you found in nature. It can't be identical to nature. So if it's not identical nature, you are nature. Your body is nature. It is accustomed to having other things that are in nature. So when you present something that is not found in nature, your body has no idea what to do with it. It will do some good with it, but it's also going to cause some problem because it throws the system out of balance. That's why you always need more and more drugs. And do you think I'm the only one that knows this? No. Pharmaceutical industry knows that. Okay? They know that, hey, one drug, if you take it long enough, it's going to cause you to need another drug. And then those two drugs are going to cause you to need another drug. And then those two drugs may cause you to go to the hospital. And then you have to stay in the hospital and you get more drugs. And then you leave the hospital with drugs. Do you see? it sounds it sounds crazy when you think about it, but that is our medical system, our healthcare system. I hate to even call it a healthcare system because it has nothing to do with health. Anyway, let's go to the next slide. Let's see how we should start thinking. All right. So lost knowledge. I call this an ageless blueprint because we just have to go back ages, and it'll give us a blueprint of what to do. So herbal traditions, ancient systems, these have all been lost through the allopathic medicine here in the United States. Now, a lot of these traditions are still being practiced in other countries like Japan and China and India, and they have a thriving population. Chinese people, Indian people from India, they have the biggest population in the world. So somehow they're doing something and they're making a lot of people. So they must be living and thriving and doing well, even though they have not adopted allopathic medicine. All right. So we go from these ancient systems, these documented botanical remedies for centuries before standardization. And then we moved into we lost the holistic framework of mind-body connections. This doctor 200-300 years ago, Descartes, he decided that the body was one thing and the spirit is something else. And neither one of these have an influence on the other. And they said that spiritual things were the church's realm, and the body, this physical body, it belongs to medicine. And when you separated it, it just totally threw off the whole system, okay? Because spirit and mind are totally connected to the body. When you disconnect it, you throw off the balance and the harmony, and that's why people feel so disconnected, because they see the body as something separate from their mind and their spirit. And that's what this podcast is about. Also, is to try and reconnect this, because that was a false assumption that these are separated. It's totally scientifically proven that your spirit and your mind and your body are 100% connected. All right. Now, cultural knowledge, indigenous wisdom passed through generations was systematically devalued. So the indigenous people in America, they totally devalued their history for thousands and thousands of years. Rebel, like you were talking about, Africans who came here, totally got rid of their whole system of healing and herbs and all this. And then they took them to another country where their tradition, what they traditionally grew, was no longer there. So they had to change their epigenetic makeup to be able to deal with a new food source and food supply. All right. And now this is what I'm trying to do, is this integrative understanding. When is conventional medicine beneficial and when is it not? When do we need to start looking at other forms of healing? So it's these complex healing systems reduced to unscientific by mainstream medicine. And that's what they're trying to do now. But I really have faith that more and more people are talking about the things that I'm talking about. I started talking about this 25, 30 years ago when we wrote those two books. Is there's another way to think about medicine other than the way I was taught. All right. So I believe more people are waking up and realizing that these drugs didn't do anything. I'll tell you when I realized it, when I saw my parents, how they lived the last 10 years of their life taking a bunch of medications, and I saw that how their body deteriorated. And that is when I started this journey of I'm going to be different. I'm not going to be declining when I'm in my 60s. I want to be on an incline. I feel more alive now at 64 than I probably did at 44. I feel wiser. I feel more energetic than I ever have because I have more wisdom. I have more understanding. All right. So let's keep going. I get on these tangents and I keep going. So let's go to the next one. All right. So lost knowledge, herbalism, mind-body connection, nutritional medicine, food as a healing modality, natural healing system supporting the body's resilience. I told you these Africans, they were resilient because they had built up their bodies from eating the foods that they naturally grew in this tropical climate. All right. And that's why they survived in the South, because they were used to a tropical climate. All right. When they tried to enslave the Irish and people from the northern hemispheres, they could not stand the heat of the South. And so all of this resiliency is made up naturally. Your body is more resilient when you are eating things that are natural. All right. So let's go. Let's go to the next one. So the rise in functional medicine. I really do believe this. People are waking up to what's going on. So in functional medicine, we're trying to find the root cause. And I'll tell you, the two books that we wrote, Are Your Hormones Making You Sick? As you age, hormones and hormone balance are a lot of the time are the root cause of a lot of problems, especially in women and in men. Women having bleeding issues, have hysterectomies, having difficulty getting pregnant, all of these things. A lot of them are based in the root cause of hormone imbalances. And I'll talk a lot about that. We talked about saliva testing last week and how you can measure hormones. And then the next one, the root cause is stress. I've said this over and over again. I'll probably always say it in the podcast, is that 75 to 90% of all visits to primary care physicians are for stress-related complaints or disorders. Now, that was a study that I read 30 years ago and prompted us to write the book, the stress connection. Now it's probably 95% of all visits to primary care physicians over stress-related complaints or disorders. And the more I talk to patients, the more I'm convinced it's 95%, especially in this chaotic world that we're living in right now. So if we could understand stress and understand hormones, we could eliminate the root cause of a lot of diseases and a lot of conditions. All right. So we want to view the body as interconnected networks. We are connected with each other, and that's the quantum physics theory that we'll talk about. Okay, we'll graduate up to that. We want to start at the basics, but we are all connected. We're connected to nature. That's why plants can do things that affect the human body, because we're all connected, and that the body it knows what to do with these herbs and these plants, and how to digest natural foods, and it doesn't know how to digest processed foods. So we want to understand that we are connected, and that we have to stay connected to nature in order for us to thrive. Now people are wanting personalized treatment. I talk about you cannot manage what you cannot measure. You need to be able to measure your hormones. You need to be able to measure your cortisol and your stress levels. You need to be able to measure your gut microbiome. You need to be able to measure whether or not you have food sensitivities. So all these things you need to measure so that we can personalize what is best for you. Everybody is different. You can look around. Everybody looks different. They look different heights, different colors, different sexes. That everybody's different. So you cannot do a one size fits all. It's been proven over and over again. You cannot give the same thing, even when you're talking about natural or holistic medicine. You cannot give the same thing to everybody. I see this in hormone replacement. They're giving the same thing to everybody. You cannot do that. It does not work. All right. And we want to combine evidence-based conventional and traditional approaches. Again, I'm not anti-conventional medicine. We have cancer patients that do chemo and radiation, and we just try to support them and help them to be resilient so they can withstand the treatment. We give IV vitamin C prior to surgery so that their body is more likely to heal. It's going to make the tissue stronger and healthier so that it can heal. So there's things you can do to build up your resilience so that you can withstand conventional treatments. You can withstand the stressors of life. You have to try and be resilient. You have to be able to be resilient through change, because everything is changing. The only thing that is consistent is change, and you have to be resilient in order to withstand change. We understand that we change presidents, the weather changes every day, our environment changes. You have to be able to get through and go through these changes that in life. I'm going through a change. Everybody's telling me it's time, it's 65, aren't you going to retire? No, I'm not going to go through that change. I'm going to make a conscious choice that I'm going to try and be productive till the day I die. I may be doing podcasts in the ICU when I'm taking my last breath. I'm going to tell you, that the problem with popular thinking is that it doesn't require you to think at all. I'll tell you that we cannot keep thinking the way that we're thinking in order to change our health. All right. Do I have another slide? Oh, it's almost time to go. I got to get back. It's almost time to go, isn't it? Okay.
Yes.
So here's what we want to do. And we'll talk about this. We want to use science to test different healing methods. So we can use science to test energy medicine. We can use science to test spirituality. So, hey, if you want to use the scientific method, that's fine. We'll use it. All right. But it's not, if we don't prove it scientifically, doesn't mean it doesn't work. We want to have wider access. I refer people to acupuncturists, to energy healers, because I believe all of that can work in certain people. We want to give people choices. You don't have to follow the same blueprint. You need to follow your own blueprint. And we want to see medical schools start to teach other forms of medicine. I think that will be beneficial for our entire healthcare system. So I think it's 9:50. These podcasts go by fast, Rebel.
They do. They really do.
So I hope you understand. And we're going to talk more about the nuts and bolts of functional medicine, but I want you to see where we came from. How did we get into this crazy system? And then we can figure a way to get out. All right. So that's my hope for you. So until next time, God bless.
Thanks for joining Dr. Taylor today. If you missed any part of this show, just check out the podcast wherever you listen to podcasts. Ageless Blueprint is every Wednesday at 9 a.m. Eastern Time on W4HC Radio at W4HC.com. Together, we discover the ancient secrets to better health through science and spirituality made for modern times. Until then, feel free to check out agelessblueprintpodcast.com and taylormdformulations.com for more information.
All right, Rebel.